Her laugh hit me before I even saw them. That high, breathless one she does when she's trying too hard. The one I used to think was real. I stood there, halfway between the buffet table and the back porch, holding a flimsy paper plate with a single untouched meatball sliding around on it, watching as my wife tilted her head back and let him spin her in slow circles. I counted every turn. 1, 2, 3. She leaned into him like she'd forgotten gravity, like her whole body trusted him to hold it together. My stomach flipped when she rested her hand on his shoulder, the same hand that used to twitch in her sleep and always reached for me. He said something. She threw her head back and laughed again, louder this time. Her hair caught the glow of the string lights like something out of a movie. It looked so cinematic, I almost believed it wasn't happening. But it was. And no one noticed me. No one noticed the husband frozen 2 steps from the dance floor, gripping a plate he didn't want, with sweat crawling down his spine like shame. Not even her. Not even Rhea. I don't know how long I stood there. I just remember when I finally moved, the paper plate hit the grass with a pathetic thud, and I turned around before I did something embarrassing, like cry or beg. The bathroom was occupied, so I found a corner in the front yard where the music felt far away. I sat on the curb, knees to chest like a kid waiting for the bus, and stared at the cracks in the concrete. And she didn't come. 5 minutes. 10. 15. She kept dancing. I thought about texting her, just to see if she'd notice her phone light up in her purse. Just to prove to myself I wasn't invisible. I didn't. I just sat there like a ghost, listening to the muffled bass thump from inside, the kind that vibrates your teeth. And for a second, one full second, I wondered what would happen if I stood up and walked away completely. If I just disappeared. Then I heard footsteps. Fast ones. Barefoot. I turned. It was her. But not the version I knew. This Rhea was out of breath, mascara slightly smudged, pupils wide with panic. "Colby," she said, like the word was made of glass. "Where did you go?" I didn't answer. I just said, "You danced like I was dead." And she blinked. Once, like the thought had never crossed her mind. But oh, it had now. She opened her mouth like she had a script ready, but nothing came out. Just breath. Just air. Her eyes darted toward the house, like she expected someone to follow her, like he might come looking for her, too. I waited to see if he would. He didn't. "Why did you leave like that?" she asked, hugging herself like she was cold. She wasn't. It was warm. Sweat clinging to your back kind of warm. I stayed seated on the curb. She didn't come closer. I wanted to tell her I left because I couldn't watch her pretend I didn't exist. Because I couldn't stand the way she looked alive when he touched her wrist. Because I counted 6 songs she danced to, and none of them with me. But the words didn't come out. Instead, I muttered something stupid like, "I didn't feel well." She squinted at me like she didn't believe it. Or worse, like she didn't care. "Colby," she said, and there it was again. That voice, trying to sound soft but laced with exasperation. "You're overreacting. Levi is just a friend. You know that." A friend. A friend who ran his hand down the back of her arm like he was brushing dust off something valuable. A friend who looked at her like he knew the color of her bedsheets. A friend she once dated in college and swore she had no feelings for. But she also swore she hated tequila, and here she was, 3 shots in, smiling like it was her wedding day. "He's not the problem," I said, which was a lie. He was the problem, but not the only one. She sighed, that long, tired sigh she always gave me when I made things awkward. That word, awkward. As if my hurt feelings were just a glitch in the party's vibe. As if I was embarrassing her. As if being hurt by my wife ignoring me was somehow immature. I finally stood up. Not because I was ready, but because I couldn't sit there and look smaller than I already felt. "Do you even realize what it looked like in there?" I asked, quieter than I wanted to be. Rhea didn't respond. So I kept going. "You look like you were in love with someone else. You look like I never existed." Her expression cracked for a second. Just a flicker, like maybe she hadn't seen it that way until now. Then she crossed her arms, went defensive. Classic Rhea. "I wasn't doing anything wrong. You're twisting it into something it's not." "No," I said, barely keeping my voice from shaking. "I think I finally stopped twisting it into something it wasn't." She flinched at that. Good. I wanted her to feel it. Just a little of it. Just enough to know she couldn't laugh it off this time. But then she said something I didn't expect. "Do you want me to say I'm sorry? Is that what you need?" She said it like an obligation. Like an errand. Like she was already tired of me, of my feelings, of my existence. And something inside me, something that had been waiting years, snapped. "I don't want an apology," I said. "I want to matter." That silenced her. No snarky reply. No empty comfort. Just silence. The kind that hangs between two people who both know they've crossed a line they can't uncross. A car drove by. The party music shifted again. And still, she said nothing. So I turned and started walking. "Colby," she called out behind me. This time, her voice cracked. Not a lot. Just enough. But I didn't stop. For once in our whole messed-up love story, I was the one who left first. I didn't go far. I didn't even have a plan. I just walked down the block past rows of cars I didn't recognize, past neighbors I'd never meet. The air was thicker than usual, humid in that way that sticks to your skin like guilt. I must have looked ridiculous, a grown man wandering the suburbs in dress shoes that clicked too loudly on pavement. I kept expecting her to follow. She didn't. When I hit the end of the street, I turned around. The party lights were still glowing, and music was still echoing faintly into the night like nothing had happened. And maybe to everyone else, nothing had. But to me, something cracked open that night. My phone buzzed once. Then again. Then silence. I didn't check it. I already knew it was her. Probably trying to smooth things over with one of her classic lines. "Don't be like that." Or, "You're making this bigger than it is." She always said things like that when I got upset, like my pain was a trick mirror and all I needed was better lighting. I walked home. It wasn't far, a little under a mile. Enough to cool down or fall apart. I did a bit of both. I sat on our porch for almost 15 minutes before I had the nerve to walk inside. The house was quiet. I went straight to the bedroom and shut the door behind me like I was trying to trap all the thoughts inside. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the closet. One of her heels had fallen over, laying on its side like it had given up too. I wanted to scream, or cry, or sleep, but I couldn't do any of it. Instead, I opened my phone. 3 missed calls. 2 texts. The first one, "Can we talk when I get back?" The second, "Please don't turn this into something it's not." I laughed, out loud, and it sounded foreign, like it came from someone else in the room. Like someone was mocking me with my own mouth. So I did something small, petty, but it felt like armor. I turned off my phone, powered it down completely. Then I sat in the dark until I fell asleep. I woke up to my phone vibrating like a dying insect against the nightstand. The screen lit up with her name. Over and over. I let it ring. Then ring again. I waited for the voicemail. It came. Her voice was soft. Too soft. Like she was trying to sound composed, but couldn't stop the edge in her throat from bleeding through. "Colby, I'm outside. Please. I just want to talk. I don't want us to go to bed like this. Please come out." I stayed frozen. There was something about the way she said "please" that night. Like it wasn't for me. Like she needed to feel better about herself. Another voicemail followed. Then another. The last one came at 2:14 a.m. That one was different. "Colby, I didn't mean for it to look that way. I got caught up. I didn't expect to feel anything. I swear to God I didn't. But seeing your face when you walked away, Colby, I messed up. I know I did. I'm scared you're going to stop forgiving me." And that's when it hit me. Stop forgiving her? How many times had I done it without realizing? I laid back in bed and stared at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, silent circles. My chest was tight, like my ribs were holding in something that wanted to scream its way out. She messed up, but she was still using my forgiveness like it was a faucet she could turn on and off. And for the first time, I wasn't sure I had any left. I don't know why I got up. I should have stayed in bed. Let her sit outside and feel what silence tastes like. Let her realize that not every version of me comes running when she says please. But something in me, maybe stupidity, maybe leftover love, maybe just habit, pulled me up and dragged me toward the door like gravity. I didn't turn the lights on. I opened it slow, quietly, like I wasn't sure I wanted her to know I was there. She was sitting on the porch steps, arms around her knees like a teenager who'd missed curfew. Her heels were off, tossed beside her like she'd stomped the guilt out of them. Her makeup was smeared, lips raw from chewing. For a second, just one flicker of a second, she looked like the woman I met 6 years ago. Vulnerable, small, real. Then she saw me. She stood up too fast, like she'd been rehearsing it. "Colby." I raised a hand, and she stopped. That was new. She never used to stop. I didn't speak right away. I wanted her to fill the silence, to squirm under it. I wanted her to feel the way I did every time she made me beg for her attention. You think I left because I'm jealous, I finally said. Because I'm insecure. Because I can't handle you having fun without me. She shook her head instantly. No, that's not. Yes, I interrupted, calm but sharp. That's exactly what you think. She bit her lip. She hated being interrupted. I knew that. I used to care. I didn't anymore. I left, I said. Because I watched the woman I love become someone I didn't recognize. And I wasn't the only one who noticed it. You danced like you were single. You laughed like you forgot I existed. And you let him touch you in a way I haven't dared to in months. Because every time I try, you flinch like I'm cold. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. And the worst part, I added, stepping closer. You didn't even flinch when I left. You kept dancing. You waited until the lights went out to miss me. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. Not yet. Ria was always good at crying when it counted. In private, in control, in ways that made her look softer, never Messier. I swear, she whispered, voice trembling. Nothing happened between me and Levi. It was just dancing. I got caught up, and I didn't think. That's the problem. I cut in. You didn't think. You haven't been thinking for a long time. She finally broke. A tear slid down her cheek, fast and hot like it had been building for days. She wiped it away quickly, like she was ashamed of it. I didn't rush to comfort her. I just watched. I don't know how to fix this, she said, almost too quiet to hear. I did. But I also knew it wasn't my job to teach her anymore. You start by being honest, I said. Not with me. With yourself. She looked up, panicked now. What do you mean? I am being honest. No, I said. You're being careful. And that was the difference. She wasn't here because she understood what she'd done. She was here because she saw something in my face that scared her. Something cold. Something permanent. Something like done. Her breath hitched. Are you leaving me? I stared at her, and for the first time in years, I didn't know the answer. Not because I didn't want to leave, but because I wasn't sure there was anything left to leave. I didn't answer her question. I just walked past her, back into the house. I left the door open behind me, not out of kindness, but because I knew it would make her hesitate. She stood there on the porch, caught between coming in or respecting the space she'd just shattered. Eventually, she followed. She didn't sit. She hovered near the hallway like she didn't know if she was welcome. The house suddenly felt too quiet, too clean. I could hear the ticking of the thermostat. I could hear the soft squeak of her steps on the floorboards. I could hear her breathing. That used to be my favorite sound in the world, the slow, steady rhythm of her breathing beside me at night. But now it just made me anxious. I'm trying, she said behind me, voice fragile. I know I messed up. I know I wasn't thinking. But you're acting like I cheated on you in public, Colby. I danced. That's all it was. I didn't turn around. I was staring at the fridge. Not because I cared about what was in it, but because looking at her might have made me explode. You danced like you were inviting something, I said, my tone flat. And you didn't care if I was there to see it. She stepped closer. That's not fair. I turned suddenly. No, you're right. It's not. But neither is you deciding what counts as betrayal and what doesn't, based on what you can sleep with at night. That stopped her. For a moment, she looked like she might scream or cry, but instead, she did something worse. She got calm. Her voice dropped. So what, Colby? You're just done? After all we've been through? And there it was. The marriage card, the guilt pitch. But I didn't budge. Because the truth was, I'd known something for a while. Something she didn't know I knew. I walked over to the drawer by the entryway, opened it, took out the charger I never use, the one connected to the iPad she'd borrowed last month for a presentation she never actually gave. I turned on the device, tapped the screen, typed in the passcode I wasn't supposed to know. She froze. I could hear it in her breath. The stillness. The sudden drop in the air pressure of the room. I opened her messages. Didn't even have to search. There they were. Messages from Levi. From 3 weeks ago. From before the party. From before that night. Some flirty. Some casual. But one in particular stood out. You still know how to dance like you used to? Her reply. Depends who's asking. I turned the screen toward her. I didn't say a word. She stared at it for a long time. Then she whispered, You went through my stuff? And that was her defense. Not denial. Not apology. Accusation. Redirection. Classic. I laughed. Cold. Hollow. That's the part that bothers you? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything. I dropped the iPad on the couch. It bounced once, landing face down like it was ashamed too. I didn't know how far it went, I said. I still don't. But you gave him access to pieces of you I haven't touched in a year. And now I'm just supposed to accept that you drew the line at dancing? Her eyes welled again. She shook her head, slowly. I didn't sleep with him, Colby. I swear. I didn't. Maybe that was true. But the way she said it, desperate, scared, made it clear she didn't know if I'd believe her. And maybe she didn't even know if she believed herself. I want to fix this, she said. Tell me how. I stared at her for a long time, then finally whispered, you can't fix something if you don't admit it's broken. And she knew then, really knew, that something was slipping through her hands. Something she never thought I'd let go of. She just stood there after I said it, that she couldn't fix what she wouldn't admit was broken. Her arms were crossed like armor, but her shoulders slumped like surrender. The kind of posture that screamed she was tired of pretending, but still too proud to fall apart in front of me. You're making it sound like I've been planning some kind of affair, she mumbled, barely above a whisper. But I've been right here, in this house, every night. You think I'm some what, liar? Just because I had a conversation I shouldn't have? I didn't respond. I wanted to see how far she'd go without me feeding her lines to bounce off of. That was always her rhythm. Wait for me to react, then shape her apology accordingly. But this time, I gave her nothing. Just the sound of the clock ticking behind her and the hum of the fridge and my silence, louder than shouting. She stepped forward slowly, her voice rising, almost pleading now. Do you know what it's like, Colby? To feel invisible? To feel like the only time your husband touches you is when he rolls over in bed and mutters goodnight? My jaw clenched, and I almost fired back. Almost. But I waited. I wanted her to unload it all. I wanted to hear the story she told herself about how he got here. She kept going. You used to look at me. Really look at me. And lately, it's like you're here, but not present. And Levi, he noticed. I didn't go looking for attention, but I didn't push it away either. There it was. Finally, she said something real. I sat down on the edge of the armrest, letting the words settle in the air between us. Then I spoke, my voice low but steady. You want to talk about invisible? Rhea, I've spent the last 2 years shrinking myself so I wouldn't upset you. Walking on eggshells so I wouldn't set off your eye rolls or your boredom. I've asked you if something was wrong 100 times, and every single time you said, I'm fine. And I believed you, because I wanted to believe we were still okay. She blinked rapidly, arms dropping to her sides. Her mouth opened, then closed. I wasn't done. And now you're telling me that the reason you emotionally danced with another man is because I didn't physically dance with you enough? That I stopped seeing you? You think I didn't feel the distance too? I felt it. I just didn't feel it with someone else. Her face finally cracked. That's not what I was doing. I stared at her. Then what were you doing? She couldn't answer that. So I stood. Walked past her. Not away. Just around her, like I needed space to breathe. I didn't want to yell. I didn't want to punish. I just wanted the truth, whatever it was, however ugly. She turned to follow, but I stopped her with a question she didn't expect. Was he the only one? Silence. That silence was an answer. But she still said it out loud anyway. No. My knees nearly buckled. Not from betrayal. From confirmation. Who? I asked. My voice was paper thin. Her eyes filled again. This time the tears came faster. It was before. Months ago. I didn't sleep with anyone, I swear to God. It was just texts. Just talking. I felt like if I told you, you'd see me differently. I didn't want to be the villain in your version of us. You are the villain, I said, not shouting, just stating. But you're also the only one who got to play victim and hero and protagonist for so long. I think you started believing your own edits. She sat down on the floor like her legs gave out, hands in her hair, breathing shallow. And for a moment, I didn't feel angry. I felt pity. And that, somehow, was worse. Because now I wasn't fighting for us. I wasn't even fighting her. I was just deciding whether or not I had the strength to walk away from someone who had already emotionally walked out on me long ago. And in that moment, for the first time in years, the idea of being alone felt less terrifying than staying. I didn't storm off. I didn't slam a door or throw a chair or yell. I just walked upstairs like a man going through the motions of something he's already decided. Each step felt slow and deliberate, like I was dragging the weight of years behind me. When I reached our bedroom, I didn't even hesitate. I opened the closet. pulled out the old black duffel bag I hadn't touched since our last weekend getaway, which now felt like it belonged to a completely different life. I unzipped it slowly. The sound alone must have reached her downstairs, because I heard her footsteps scramble across the floor and then up the stairs, fast and uneven. "Colby, what are you doing?" she asked from the doorway, her voice cracking like she already knew. I didn't answer. I folded a shirt, placed it neatly into the bag, then another, then socks, then my watch, the one she gave me for our second anniversary, the one I hadn't worn in over a year because every time I looked at it, it reminded me how much time we were pretending we were fine. "Stop," she said, rushing in, grabbing my arm. "Please don't do this. Please don't pack. We haven't even, Colby, we haven't even tried yet." "Tried," I repeated, laughing bitterly. "Rhea, you had a whole emotional affair behind my back. Two, actually. You didn't come to me when you were lonely. You went to them. And I'm supposed to believe now you want to try?" Tears rolled down her face, but I didn't reach for her. "I didn't want this to happen," she said, her voice nearly a sob. "I swear to you I didn't. I didn't think it would go that far. I was just so disconnected. I needed something, someone, and you were always so far away. I was 5 feet from you every night," I snapped. "The only difference is you stopped seeing me. I didn't go anywhere. You did. You just stayed in the house so it wouldn't look like you left." She collapsed to her knees like her body couldn't handle what I said. But I didn't bend down. I didn't comfort her. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like her husband. I felt like her consequence. "I'm sorry," she whispered again and again like a prayer, her hands gripping the edge of the bed like it might save her. "I'm so sorry." But sorry wasn't a reset button. It wasn't a time machine. It wasn't even truth, not when it came this late. I stayed quiet for years, I told her, kneeling in front of my bag. "I thought if I waited long enough, you'd come back to me. But all that did was teach you I'd never leave, no matter how many lines you crossed." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "You don't mean this," she whispered. I looked her straight in the eyes. "Yes," I said. "I do. And you know what scares you more than me leaving? It's knowing that I finally mean it." She started shaking her head, crawling closer like proximity could undo what she'd broken. "Then tell me what I can do," she pleaded. "Tell me how to earn it back. Tell me what you need from me." I stood up, zipped the bag closed. "You can't earn back something you spent years showing me I wasn't worth," I said. "And what I need is peace. I don't even remember what that feels like." And that's when it happened. She broke. Fully. No more deflection, no more defensive tones, no more carefully measured tears. She clung to the hem of my jeans and cried the way people cry at funerals. Not because something is dying, but because something already died and they're just now realizing it. And I let her cry, but I didn't stay. I walked out of that bedroom, out of that house, with the heaviest bag I've ever carried. Not because of the clothes, but because of every version of myself I left behind in that hallway. And she stayed kneeling on the floor, mourning the version of me she thought would never actually go. I didn't look back when I left the house. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew if I did, I'd hesitate. And hesitation had cost me years. The night air hit different as I stepped out. It didn't sting like I expected it to. It felt clean, like I'd stepped out of a room where the oxygen had run out, and I could finally breathe. I walked slowly to my car, tossed the bag into the trunk, and sat in the driver's seat for a long time before starting the engine. I didn't have a destination. No hotel booked. No friend's couch waiting. I just drove. At 3:17 a.m., I pulled into an old gas station off Route 8. The kind with flickering overhead lights and a vending machine that still had Pepsi in glass bottles. I sat on the hood of my car, sipping one, watching the stars disappear as the first signs of morning pushed at the edge of the sky. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a burden. I didn't feel small. I didn't feel like a joke with a ring on his finger and dust where love used to live. I just felt like a man who finally stopped lying to himself. The next few days were quiet. I stayed in a cheap motel by the lake. I turned off my phone, not out of cruelty, but because silence was no longer something to fear. It was something I owed myself. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat with the truth that she had loved me once, that I had loved her longer than I should have, and that letting go wasn't the same as giving up. Letting go was giving myself back. It wasn't until the 5th day that I turned my phone on again. Dozens of messages, missed calls, some from her, some from friends, one from her sister, saying Ria had taken time off work and was a wreck. I stared at that one the longest. And then I replied. One sentence. Tell her I forgive her. But I'm not coming back. I meant it. Every word. Because forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. Sometimes forgiveness is what you give yourself, so you can stop bleeding in places no one ever bothered to notice. Weeks passed. Then one morning, I woke up to birdsong instead of buzzing anxiety. I started running again. I picked up my guitar. I visited my sister in Oregon. I helped my nephew build a birdhouse. I remembered what laughter sounded like when it wasn't followed by apology. And one rainy Sunday, I met someone new. Her name was Delane. She worked at the bookshop downtown and smelled like cedar and old pages. We talked for 2 hours without checking our phones. She didn't know my past. She just liked my laugh. I hadn't even known I still had one. I don't know where it's going, but I know what's behind me. And I'm not walking backward anymore. Ria and I didn't hate each other in the end. We didn't scream through lawyers or throw furniture. We let go, slowly, painfully, like a bandage stuck to skin that hadn't healed yet. But sometimes the wound has to breathe before it can close. And now, months later, when I pass couples dancing at weddings or in parks, I don't flinch. I smile. Because I remember what it felt like to be invisible, and I swore I'd never disappear like that again. Not for anyone. Not even for love.